Humans only eat for two reasons. One of them is biological hunger.
Yeah.
The other is reward hunger.
What other strategies do you employ to avoid this stress eating phenomenon, which I think is extremely common in our society, as your independent investigation revealed?
So a couple of things. One, up front, I always ask people to reassess their food environment, right? We know this from the world of food psychology. You want a different relationship with food, you have to have a different environment. So we go through the reorganization of a pantry, go through reorganizing a refrigerator, right? And we know that 80% of the time you open up a fridge or pantry, you are going to consume the very first thing in your line of sight, whatever you saw first. If you open up a fridge and there's strawberry yogurt, somehow you're going to end up eating that. So eliminating the foods that create lots of temptation, right? What's the best strategy? You can't eat what isn't there. But that's not always possible, right? We live with other people who have different ideas about food. So I always encourage patients to start to ask themselves questions when they're in the heat. And I would encourage you, Swamy, to do the same. When you're in the heat of a moment and you're feeling like, I want to reach for some chips or pretzels or whatever it may be, a bar, right? Sometimes it's not something that we deem unhealthy. Sometimes it's I want to have a bowl of fruit or whatever that may be. Number one, ask yourself, right? Especially if this is at an inopportune time. In other words, if you had lunch at noon and it's now 2:00 and you want to have a little bit of something, and I would say that my definition of snacks are probably different than that of your rank and file citizen. To me, a snack is just a small portion of food. It's not something that comes in a bag. So if you are feeling a little bit peckish, let's say it's an hour and a half after dinner, right? 2 hours after a meal, first thing you want to ask yourself is, what is it about my previous meal that wasn't satisfying enough? Why am I searching for food 2 hours after the fact, right? Then you ask yourself, could this be thirst, right? Could this just be because oftentimes that hunger response is really coming from a dehydrated space? So ask yourself, could this be thirst? Could this be fatigue? Right? Could I just be tired and I'm looking for something that I think is going to give me a boost of energy? Could this be stress? Right? Could this be anxiety? And what I really want to do here,
Yes.
is coat my nerves with food.
Yes.
So years ago, both of my parents were hospitalized at the same time. And obviously that would be a stressful situation for most people. And I found myself engaging in this behavior of going to the fridge, going to the pantry. And at one point, I actually put Post-it notes in my refrigerator or pantry saying, Lee, whatever it is you're looking for isn't in here, right? Because I wasn't looking for sustenance.
Right.
Humans only eat for two reasons. One of them is biological hunger.
Yeah.
The other is reward hunger. This is where most of our problems are as a society. So just having something like that, this physical kind of amusing reminder, right, that you're not really looking for food, you're looking for comfort, go find it elsewhere. So if I go back to this chain of questioning, right, could it be thirst? Could it be fatigue? Could it be anxiety, right, or stress? Let's say the answer to those questions are no. I'm not thirsty, I'm not fatigued, I'm not stressed out. You have to ask yourself in the heat of that moment, can this wait? Right? Because all of these strategies, Swamy, just bring us down into a more conscious state. When we make decisions about food, can it wait? And most of the time, when we ask ourselves a question like that, the answer is yes, I actually can wait.
Yes.
It's the unconscious piece that isn't thinking about, should I be eating this right now, that reaches into the bag of chips. But when you ask yourself, wow, if I'm thirsty, I should drink something. If I'm fatigued, I need rest, right? If I'm, anxious, there are lots of different ways to blunt anxiety outside of food. And one of the conversations that I have with patients in respect to this line of questioning and this line of thinking is, if you have children and your 8-year-old came to you and said, I'm thirsty, would your answer be eat something?
No.
If your 8-year-old came to you and said, I'm tired, would your solution be, here's a cookie? I hope not, right? Or I'm anxious about something, would you say, here's a slice of pizza? And yet as adults, that's how we treat ourselves, right? That's the solution often. And so all of this is about establishing a relationship with food that requires greater consciousness before we decide.
Brilliant. I mean, that's so key to the success. This prep work is so important. And Lee, thanks for breaking it down. Understanding the process, understanding thought behind the program really is important, I think, for most of our educated patients who want to make a real difference in their life that's long-term, that's sustainable, and understanding these concepts, deeply ingraining them into ourselves is so key.